I wanted it to be called the Donald J. Trump Accord, but I didn't think the press would understand that, so I didn't do that.
אדם בולר, יושב ראש קרן הסיוע של הבית הלבן, היה שם לפני שנה בחדר הסגלגל. כשנשיא ארצות הברית לשעבר טראמפ התקשר לראש הממשלה לשעבר נתניהו ליורש העצר של אבו דאבי, מוחמד בן זאיד, והשאר היסטוריה.
And in that call, it was very hard not to get emotional. You felt the historic nature of it. It was really, it was great to hear MBZ and BB back and forth. You know what, it felt like long-lost cousins that had been kept away for far too long. And it was one of the President of the United States' greatest moments, I think. I had tears in my eyes on this. It was an authentic and very emotional moment.
I would say that the starting point was when President Trump went to Riyadh in May of 2017, his first foreign trip, which included not only Saudi Arabia but Israel.
ג'ייסון גרינבלט היה השליח של ממשל טראמפ עד 2019, שנה לפני החתימה על הסכמי אברהם. כבר אז ראה את זה מגיע.
He sent a message that the fight is between good and evil. The fight is against extremism. Israel is here to stay. Israel is an important neighbor that should be welcomed into the community.
Our vision is one of peace, security, and prosperity in this region and all throughout the world.
אבל כפי שמספר כאן בפעם הראשונה אדם בולר, המפתח לשכנע כמה ממנהיגי מדינות ערב ללכת על המהלך היה בכלל היחסים האינטימיים שנרקמו בינן לבין אנשיו של טראמפ ובראשם חתנו ויועצו ג'ארד קושנר.
I was talking with a Saudi foreign minister, and he said one of the things that Ja'ard did differently is he didn't view the relationship as transactional.
You can't solve problems that have gone unsolved by doing it the same way that people before you have tried and failed.
Ja'ard spent a lot of time with him. He spent a lot of time in Saudi at camps with him, looking at the stars late at night, and that's how you build a relationship in the region.
וכך, כשהגיע רגע האמת בקיץ שעבר, שרה אמירי, השרה לטכנולוגיות מתקדמות של האמירויות, לא ממש נפלה מהכיסא כששמע על ההכרזה שהדהימה כל כך הרבה אנשים. What was your first reaction when you heard about the Abraham Accords?
It was a feeling of new opportunities opening up across the region. This is not something new onto the UAE to further expand collaboration moving forward and to ensure the stability of the region overall. It was not a surprising move, and it was one that is welcomed, especially for the future of our region.
שלא תטעו, לצד טיפוח היחסים האינטימיים, אנשיו של טראמפ ידעו היטב שיהיה קשה לגרום למנהיגי מדינות ערב להוציא את היחסים עם ישראל מהארון בלי שהושגה כל התקדמות עם הפלסטינים.
The focus shifted. And the way it shifted is it focused on an actor that everybody could agree in the entire region was a problem, and that's Iran. We said, listen, we're not asking you as UAE or Qatar or others to change your position on whether there should be a Palestinian state or rights there. What we're asking you to do is normalize a relationship with a friend that you're already friends with under the covers, but bring it out in the open because you have a common enemy.
What were the obstacles in the way towards this normalization?
Look, the region has been steeped in this psyche that the Israeli-Palestinian conflict is the core conflict of the Middle East. It certainly is not. People felt that they didn't want to leave the Palestinians behind, and by the way, they shouldn't. But what they did decide to do is put their own national interests front and center. Iran, oil prices, a young, thriving population that's thirsting for new opportunities. So the region had to put their own interests ahead of everybody else, all the while supporting Palestinians.
Your Excellency, you know, there are people in the Arab world that criticize the agreement between Israel and UAE and the normalization between the two countries. What do you say to them?
Coexistence is very important for the UAE, and when we look from the perspective of space, when we look at Earth from space, we never see conflicts. We see a planet that houses our species, humanity, and we need to ensure that we continue to advance humanity from a humane perspective.
עד היום האמירויות והמדינות שהלכו אחריה סופגות ביקורת קשה בעולם הערבי ובזירה הפלסטינית. בזמנו, באבו דאבי ניסו להצדיק את הנרמול בכך שישראל עצרה בתמורה את תוכנית הסיפוח ביהודה ושומרון.
I think they were very careful in choosing their language with the use of the word suspend. And I think it's going to be up to the Israeli government to make a decision as to what they want to do with respect to that aspect of the peace plan that President Trump unveiled. And then I think it'll be up to the countries who signed the Abraham Accords or one day may sign the Abraham Accords to decide how to react to that.
אולי כבר שכחנו, אבל לפני ההישג הכביר של הסכמי אברהם בין ישראל למדינות ערב, הייתה לממשל טראמפ תוכנית שלום גרנדיוזית עם הפלסטינים, עסקת המאה. מהר מאוד היא ירדה לטמיון.
The one thing you'll know about President Trump, and people like this, people don't like this, is he wants to always push the envelope further. So in this case, he loved to give Ja'red a hard time on, great on normalization, but you know, he didn't solve the Israeli-Palestinian thing, okay? So he was always pushing on it. But no, the president understood and really wanted, I think every administration, you know, sees this as a challenge.
People have to understand that when they combine the Israeli-Palestinian conflict back into the Abraham Accords, they do a tremendous disservice to Israel, to the UAE, to Bahrain, to Morocco, to Sudan, and to any other country in the region who wants to join it. By combining the conflicts with statements that say, but we can't forget the Palestinians and things like that, you give the Palestinian leadership their veto card once again. The Palestinian leadership is deeply divided between Ramallah and Gaza. Until the Palestinian leadership can get its own house in order, there really isn't even anything to talk about.
בזמן שהשלום עם הפלסטינים נראה כמו עתיד רחוק, השלום עם האמירויות, החלוצה והמובילה של הסכמי אברהם, הוא כאן ועכשיו.
On the first meeting between Meir Ben Shabbat and TBZ, in the first flight, half the plane was U.S., our side was the U.S. side, and then you had the Israeli side on the right side of the plane as they're facing forward. And there was a lot of nervous energy. And we were talking with the Israelis, and our recommendations, we were right in the front, were, hey, guys, Israelis can get business-like. They want to move forward quickly. I love this about Israelis. But we said, listen, it's the first meeting. Cool it a little bit. You know, let's not be overly aggressive, okay? They said, no, we got it. We're not going to be overly aggressive. And so we got there. It was a dinner in a palace. And what became apparent was being aggressive was not going to be a problem at all, because the Emiratis are just as aggressive from a business perspective. Everybody was very excited to see each other, and no one was not being aggressive and trying to move it quickly. And I remember there was a conversation, they said, well, one of the first things we need to do is bank accounts. And TBZ is like, let's get it done tomorrow. And the Israelis were like, yeah, we're going to get it done tomorrow. And they did it. I mean, I've never seen anything happen so quickly, but the two of them were just so excited to meet and to make things go forward.
It has become a regular occurrence where we exchange thoughts. We ensure that each of our stakeholders on both countries, so for myself, the companies that are involved in both space and also in technology within our industry, do have access to opportunities. All are passionate about what we're doing. We're all passionate about the sectors that we're in.
Let's look forward. 10 years from now, how the relations between the two countries will look like.
It's not something that you can normally project. And what I see is great things for both the relationship and more importantly for the advancement across different fields.
על אף הנימה האופטימית, האתגרים של הסכמי אברהם רבים. הסוגיה הפלסטינית לא הולכת לשום מקום. היחסים במישור העממי עוד צריכים להתפתח. ולא פחות חשוב, בבית הלבן ובירושלים יש בעלי בית חדשים.
I hope what they do is they'll use the funds to advance prosperity in the region, build it, call it something different if you want, make it your own, but advance what is a bipartisan mission.
Did you in any point thought that it will be realistic to have official relations between Israel and Saudi Arabia?
It's more complicated, it's a more complicated society, bigger country. you know, the home of the two holiest places for Islam. So lots of reasons it hasn't happened yet, but I remain optimistic. And you know, when I get off the phone with them Thursday or Friday and I wish them Shabbat Shalom and they wish me Shabbat Shalom, it's really such a dramatic change from 2017.
Today I am with Mr. Grinblat. Thank you for coming and giving me the opportunity to meet you here.
By the way, not just Saudi Arabia, Oman, Qatar, there'll be others too. One day we're going to wake up and be surprised and say, wow, and it's going to be normal and beautiful.
ועד שזה יקרה, אולי כדאי פשוט לחגוג את השנה הראשונה של ההסכמים ההיסטוריים שסדקו את החרם הערבי על ישראל אחרי עשרות שנים, ולא פחות חשוב, לשמור עליהם מכל משמר.
I've talked to Jared about it. I said, look, you could have spent years building the relationship and maybe nothing would have happened. But that investment paid off.
I think the Abraham Accords were the opportunity of a lifetime. What they used to call the deal of the century with the Palestinians in a pejorative way. I think the Abraham Accords were a deal of the century.